We start today with the most familiar finish line commentary of this year's tour, because we won't be hearing it again.
Cavendish! It's going to do it! Mark Cavendish has done it again! Cavendish and Greipel, you cannot split them!
Mark Cavendish's face tells the whole story.
Cavendish and Marcel Kittel. Cavendish gets there and he takes an extraordinary third win. There's an almighty battle. John Degenkolb is in the mix and Mark Cavendish punches the air. He thinks he's taken a fourth win.
Yesterday, with 4 stage wins in his hand luggage, Mark Cavendish flew home to focus on the track for Rio. It wasn't that he didn't want to win the final sprint in Paris, just that he couldn't face the 4-day trek through the Alps to get there. Steve Cummings, meanwhile, is both staying and going, still in the Tour for Dimension Data, and now in the British Olympic road team, where many people thought he should have been from the start after the withdrawal of Peter Kenyon.
The day after your stage win, we saw conversations taking place. We heard murmurings that maybe there was going to be a change of heart and that you were going to be picked for the Olympics. You're in. You must be delighted.
Yeah, and of course I'm delighted. Olympics is special for, yeah, I'm really looking forward to going there and with the other lads and doing the best job we can do and hopefully getting a medal between us.
You're obviously disappointed, maybe a bit angry when you weren't selected. Are you over that now, and are you sort of reconciled to the decision that they made?
I think it's just important now that I'm going, and that's it. We just carry on with it and just do the best we can do now.
Hello, I think that's enough Olympic news for a Tour de France show, especially since stage 17 is the first of 4 days in the Alps and probably the toughest of them. Hard to say without seeing the other 3, but I reckon it's got a good chance of being the most spectacular too. It finishes up here at an altitude of just under 2,000 metres at the Emosson hydroelectric dam, whose reservoir is fed by the glaciers around Mont Blanc. And the fact that they're not riding up Mont Blanc itself is possibly one of the few consolations the riders will take when they look at the stage profile. 184.5 kilometres today, setting out from Bern, which scores a hat-trick on its Tour debut, stage finish, rest day venue and stage start. 2 third category climbs early on, the descent off the second of them, the Col des Mosses, taking the race past the headquarters of the UCI in Aigle. The penultimate col, the Fourclaz, or Fourclaz, depending on which locals you listen to, features a fast descent. Then there'll be the slow haul up to the top of the final super category mountain of the day. The third week has been won by Nairo Quintana in Chris Froome's last 2 Tour victories. He needs to win it again if he's going to challenge this year, and Colombian Independence Day is as good a time as any to start.
Hoy veremos la subida más dura del Tour.
Sí, es una subida bonita, una subida que me gusta. Esperamos poder hacerlo bien, llevamos mucha ilusión y después de este día de descanso pienso que el cuerpo está bien.
¿Es optimista?
Siempre.
So Rafael Majka gets the points over the top of the Fourclaz, 10 points I think it is, and he's won all the points available so far today. If he wins the stage, he gets a massive 50 points, because when an all-category race ends the day, they double the points in the mountains. Now Alaphilippe coming back from the chase group he was in.
Now, all of a sudden, I'm just trying to peek around the corner there, Phil, to see if I can spot any more Movistar riders doing the pacemaking. No, Vincenzo Nibali in earnest is doing the pacemaking, but we look down the line, there is number 11, just sitting around there. Peter Sagan, well, job done for him. He's got his 20 points out on the course. Vincenzo Nibali doing an excellent job here, but he's not riding for himself, not riding for his own account here. He's trying to nurse his young prodigy, Fabio Aru, to the front end of the race. But there's not very many riders left in this group when you look to the back. No. But I can still see the white jersey over on the left-hand side there of Adam Yates, and in front of him, that little bobbing style there, that's the Irish rider, Dan Martin.
And this is Pozzovivo here. No, it's not. It's Vilmoraz who's coming off the back of the peloton as well from AG2R. Pierre Roland just in front from Cannondale Drapac. These riders' days are done. Emmanuel Buchmann hasn't really ridden so well this year. He came as a big superstar last year to the Tour and as German champion. He's dropping back. There's only one rider with him now, Quintana, and that is Valverde. He's got no other helpers up there.
And Valverde has turned out to be an amazing ally over these last few days. He also coming to this race to prepare for the Olympic Games, but also trying to help Nairo Quintana do better than second position. Just on the back there with that red jersey, Alain Philippe. He's seen the ups and downs of the Tour de France, but at least he's got that red number on his back as the most aggressive rider from the other day when we went down into Bern.
I think he's got Viti. I just caught a glimpse of his wingman, Emmanuel Viti, also there, but a little bit further down the line, I'm afraid. Stand by for the dizzy descent here as we race down to the foot of the final climb. Steph Clement knows these roads well.
Just having a look at the attack going forward there, Phil. This is Steph Clement on the back of the group, and I would not be surprised if that wasn't Jarlinson Pantano who's made the move on the descent, and with the man who he beat to the finish in Culos just the other day, and that, of course, Rafał Majka.
Well, just gone under 15 kilometers to go, and it could be a case of deja vu for these two riders when we start the last climb.
So here we've got the riders who finished first and second on the stage into Culos, looking over his shoulder. Micah's, no, it's all up to you, mate, for the moment. I know how good you can sprint when it comes to the end of a race like this, and he's doing everything he can to stay in contact, but he has managed to get himself maximum points over the top of the climb. Over the Col de Focla, it was Majka, Vukla and Morabito. Vukla, normally himself an exceptionally good descender, he hasn't made the junction. These two riders now there is not too much. I've just noticed 3 kilometers to go to the start of the final climb, and it's just a shade inside of 11 kilometers of climbing up here to the heights in the Alps of 6,500 feet, just inside of 2,000 meters. Field, well, they're an awful long way behind at 10 1/4 minutes. Very shortly, about 2 kilometers to go, they'll have that very sharp bend. This is Bryce Felu just on the back. The other rider in there from AG2R, just trying to stay in contact there. That looks like it was Pozzo Vivo just in front, but these are the two leaders. And look at the speeds there. We get a chance here. 65 kilometers now, 75 kilometers now for the chasers, who are not much more than 300 meters behind.
Well, here we go, Paul. We're back on the road to Culos now. A couple of days ago, the same two riders holding off the peloton. I wouldn't bet against it either.
Well, the difference is, Phil, that was a downhill finish into the town of Culos and a flat sprint over the final kilometre. Here, you have to get caught when you cross the finishing line, because the road continues to climb up to another 400 or 500 metres after the finishing line, so it is a serious uphill finish.
Peter Stettner here, just finding it a little bit rough at the moment. In front of him is Damiano Caruso on BMC. Dropping away from a very small main peloton now. Here it is. Let's go and have a look in there. Sat at the back now, ready. I'm a bit surprised it's Geraint Thomas. He looks like being the next to go off.
That's an indication he's not too comfortable there, but to just look how many riders are left for Team Sky. The only way, I think, to put Chris Froome into any difficulty is to try and isolate him on this final part of the climb. Further on, as you said, we've got two races going on today, the race for the victory. I just think that Jarlinson Pantano is a slightly better climber than Rafał Majka. Majka's done a great job so far. They're about a kilometre away from that right. Well, here it is. There's the right-hand bend.
Whoa, let's watch this. Oh, our cameras are cut away. Oh, now we go.
The reason they cut away, Phil, was because Geraint Thomas has been left behind by that group, and now he's obviously paying for all of the work he's done in the early part of the event.
Well, he's got a long slog up to the finish today. The first two are around that corner, but they're now going downhill pretty quickly. Well, I did tell you about this case of being deja vu with those two riders out across these very Alps. And it was a very, very cheeky sprint win for Jarlinson Pantano. A big win it was, Paul, for his team IAM too. They needed that. They'd never won a stage of the Tour de France.
No, and they got that first victory under their belt, but it's a completely different finish. I remember this from driving up this morning. A beautiful entrance into that tunnel, which was completely decorated with bicycles painted up in red and white. And those are the colours, by the way, of this region of Switzerland.
Just gone past the banner, 10.4 kilometres to the summit of this last climb of the day. It's outside category. It is a rough one. I can tell you a little bit about it. It's the climb of the emosson. 10.4 kilometres, over 6,400 feet. The steepest part on the climb, Paul, is 15.6%.
It's horrible. It is an awful climb. HC, by the way, stands for hors category, which means outside categorization. 10 kilometres to go, and there is no respite from here to the finish line.
It starts a little, should we say, a little bit gently. It looks quite normal here. It's just an alpine pass, but wait, this is a toughie, and there's a lot of people here as well. Vincenzo Nibali also looking a bit concerned about the way that break is thinning out, the bunch is thinning out. The yellow jersey still has 3 riders with him. Quintana's trying to get on the back wheel of Chris Froome.
Well, Nibali obviously in a very good day. Chris Froome is being followed by Bauke Mollema, who is in 2nd place in the overall. And I wonder if he's looked back at history to remind himself of just what happened to him a couple of years ago when he was in a position like this, 2nd overall coming out of the rest day. Now that looks like the rider from Katusha, Zakharin, making the move in the red jersey.
Well, he's the rider that's up in the breakaway, and he doesn't know if he's going to the Olympic Games yet because of all the politics surrounding selection of athletes from Russia for the Rio Games. He's been selected by his country.
Steph Clement now, 72. He did a lot to lay the foundations for the attack for Jarlinson Pantano. Puts a lot of pressure onto the shoulders of his teammate. The next acceleration comes from the local rider there, because that's Steve Morabito in the red, white and blue jersey, FDJ, as I said, the number. Oh, Bryce Fellou was about to make the move there, which was a bit of a surprise.
Well, there he is, Bryce Fellou. He's never won a race since he conquered Arcalis a few years ago now. This breakaway has been completely spread eagle. Thomas Vauclair had a long chase to join the breakaway. He got up there, but now it looks like a hill too far, this. Right into the distance. We start hairpinning shortly. There are 6 hairpin bends on the climb up to the finish line. And it finishes going uphill, by the way.
Yes, well, after about 4 kilometres of climbing, the easiest gradient is in the first part of the climb. It's around about 6 and 7%, but once you get to 4 kilometres into the climb, then it climbs up to the 9% gradients, and there's only 1 moment of respite at around about 4 kilometres to go when it gets as easy as 8.5%, but for the rest, it is a very difficult climb. And there's a gradient in the last kilometre of around about 12%, so it really does get quite infernal in the last part of the race. Still no moves in the yellow jersey group. They've just come inside of the 10-minute mark as we still see and still wait for the moves to come from the... And now this is a little bit of an acceleration. Vincenzo Nibali says, right, now we're going to start to lift the pace. Fabio Aru comes across there, but Sky respond to that move quite easily. There they can see the... indication of the 10.5 kilometre point to the summit. Well, there is the Mont Blanc. We've been all the way around these Alps. It has been so clear over these last few days. It is the highest point in Europe. As you can see from there, it is exceptionally high, and it climbs up to, I think the summit of Mont Blanc is pretty close to 15 or 16,000 feet when you do the translation. That's 4,800 metres. You'd be grasping for oxygen up there, Phil.
Well, fortunately, there's no road, so that's good for me. We're going up to 1,960 metres now. And it's the finish right on the top. It's the highest finishing line of the race this year. These 2 boys have got themselves back together. No heroics yet. They've got to help each other at this point. Forget the peloton now. They're not going to come back. They were 10 minutes behind exactly as they went over the top of the Col de la Forclaz.
Well, Race Radio is saying they've only got between 5 and 10 seconds advantage over the chasers. So, yes, they have to collaborate. And I suppose the interesting thing is that they've been in a breakaway situation like this. And the strange thing is that on that occasion, it was, in fact, Micah who put Jarlinson Pantano into difficulty on the climb. In fact, they've been caught there. Zakharin has come back from nowhere. 1:49 now, so 3 riders with another rider in pursuit, and that's Bryce Fellou of France.
Well, Zakharin here has come back, and he's really throwing a message out to the Olympic Games. He's been selected by Russia, but he doesn't know if Russia's going to the Games yet. And he's got great form, that's for sure, and the course would suit him. Steph Clement, number 72 there. These boys are riding quite sensibly at the moment because this climb still has 8 kilometers to go and it gets steeper. Well, the finish of the stage, finhaut emosson. We turn short of the French border, French-Swiss border, by about 2 kilometers. We're now returning back into the heart of Switzerland here.
Well, this is the main field. The yellow jersey group are now starting the final kilometers of the descent. Very shortly they'll take that right-hand bend, Phil, and start the final climb of the day. They're doing speeds here, as you can see, around about almost 80 kilometers an hour, 50 miles an hour. And obviously Fabio Aru has seen this as a day that is important for him to move up and improve on his 10th position in the overall standings. He will move up a place tonight at least, because TJ Van Garderen, the American from Team BMC, well, he's been left behind and he's going to lose huge chunks of time on a climb like this.
21 riders left in the main chase peloton. A bit of cramp creeping in there by the look of it. That rider is actually Mark Ellis, I think. He was at cramping up. He's still at the back of the yellow jersey group there.
Zubeldia, no stranger to finishing in the top positions in the Tour de France, but here he's just going to try and hang on for as long as possible because he realizes how important it is for Bauke Mollema to have a teammate up alongside him, because when this race starts to split up, it's important to have a teammate there in case you have a mechanical problem or need somebody to pace you over a kilometer or so, just to get you back into the race.
The snows on the north side never melt completely throughout the summer.
So we're now looking at 3 leaders. Zakarin, the rider we're just looking at there in 3rd position, rode across the gap. He was expected to be a top man in the Giro d'Italia, but a crash out of the Giro d'Italia forced him to change his plans for the Olympic Games. And so not very long after he had that nasty crash in the Giro d'Italia, he was on the rollers. He was getting himself ready to train back up for this race. The team put him into this race to try and use the Tour de France as preparation for the Olympic Games, which is now, for all of the Russian athletes, has got a big question mark over it, but he needs to continue with his preparation. Looking down in the valleys, I mean, it is quite magnificent today. We're right on the edge of the Haute-Savoie, which is on the other side of the mountains, the high Savoie. This is the Italian side, and it really is one of those magical days there as we look at these live pictures. Our helicopters right up above the race.
Well, I think this might add the difference between winning and losing up here. Zakarin is a good, strong bike rider. He's threatened to do something big. Micah will treat him with the deepest respect, and we just simply don't know about Jorgensen Pantano.
Well, Zakarin has a big reference behind his name. It was a little bit of a surprise last year when he won the overall classification of a race in Switzerland, the Tour of Romandy. And this year he was high up in the overall standings of the Tour of Italy, having won a stage when he crashed out. And it was because of that crash that the team brought him in here to try and get him back into form for the Olympic Games. And Micah, well, I just wonder if Micah just wants to win a stage and get himself maximum points for the King of the Mountains competition.
A lot of people come to Chamonix, where they find the start of the trail via the railway. Well, whatever was said, and I suspect they spoke in English to each other, it looks as though they've decided to run another acceleration. You know, he must have taken a look at the face of Pantano and thought, I'll try once more, and it's going to work for the moment.
Well, he's hit him very hard. Pantano now a bit losing meter by meter. He needs to get back into some form of rhythm. With that was a very vicious acceleration coming from Zakarin.
Well, his only Grand Tour stage win ever was last year on the 11th day of the Tour of Italy, the Giro d'Italia. A man who does not know if he's going to the Olympic Games, but he has been selected. And they say the course suits him. I think we can see why now. It's very hilly in Rio. Zakharine totally committed. He's tried a number of moves this year in the Tour. None has worked out yet. The Basque flag is flying under the nose of Pantano. He's still an awful long way to go. He's made it very, very early, and there's room for Pantano to actually recover from this.
You can see written all over his face, Phil, the pain. He wants to win today. Maybe it's a bit more special for a Colombian to try and win today as well, because it's Colombian National Independence Day. And Nairo Quintana won on that stage back in 2013, but just looking at the power of Zakharine, he's going to be hard to pull back. While in the yellow jersey group, all of a sudden, a race that's been dominated by Team Sky is being dominated by a different team. This is Vincenzo Nibali of Astana, not riding for himself, a former Tour de France winner, riding for his prodigy, and that, of course, is Fabio Aru, who's sitting right up there in third position in that line.
The white jersey about 5 riders up of Adam Yates. It's all going very, very well just now for him. He's trying to consolidate his 3rd place overall in the race.
91 is Richie Porte, and I just noticed his teammate Damiano Caruso, who's also been selected, Phil, for the Olympic Games for Italy, has managed to get back onto the group. Another Sky rider seems to be slipping away from the front. The way to beat Sky, the way to beat Chris Froome, is to take over the pacemaking and not allow them to use the pace that they've learned how to ride over the previous part of this race.
It looks like the Nieve, and he's gone.
Landa.
In fact, it's Michael Landa who's just did a lot of work on the climb, up the climb here. As Landa slips away, that's becoming a very, very select group. Chris Froome, Bauke Mollema, Adam Yates, Quintana, Valverde, Bardet, Porte, Note, TJ Van Garderen. Have you seen Daniel Martin, Paul?
Yep, I saw him a few moments ago. He was riding alongside Adam Yates, and look at all the Colombian flags as we go through this crowd. And by the way, we look at Damiano Caruso. He's popping again. He got himself back onto the group, but he just could not stick with the pace that's being dished out by Team Astana.
It's so hard to show you how hard this climb is from a television camera, just like it is to show you speed. But this is a vicious climb. You might get some idea from that corner.
Well, there are still 4 riders in this group from Astana. There are still 3 teammates for Team Sky and Chris Froome. Just towards the back, you can see that white jersey bobbing. That's the 2nd place rider in the overall standings. That's the Trek Segafredo rider, Bauke Mollema. There he is over on the right. I've seen Dan Martin. I've seen Adam Yates. Slipping away, though, Haimar Zubeldia. So that's one more teammate lost for Bauke Mollema.
Just hanging on to the back of that very select group is the South African Louis Meintjes. He sits 12th overall. He's lost riders ahead of him. He could make a little climb in the Tour de France tonight.
Yes, that's him just sitting on the back. Well, we only got a brief image of him there, but he's hanging tough with some of the best climbers in the world currently. And Vincenzo Nibali here on the front, Phil, he's just obviously on a mission this afternoon. He wants to make it as tough as possible and make today the first sort out.
Well, here he is, sitting here at the rear of the race, Louis Meintjes. This is how he rode the first day in the mountains the other day, but he makes sure he doesn't make any mistakes.
Yeah, just in front of him was Reichenbach there, 141, Joachim Rodriguez, 41 is Roman Bardet, 36 Roman Kreuziger, number 11 Nairo Quintana, still got a teammate in this group, and a teammate, an elite teammate, it's Alejandro Valverde.
Richie Porte wears 91, the name of the leader now of Team BMC. Still a possibility he can climb into the top 3 in this race. Remember, Richie lost about 1 minute and 44 seconds on the opening days of the Tour de France with a crash. 9:31. They're making virtually no impression on this front group.
No, but what's more important when you look into the face of Vincenzo Nibali there, it's just toughening this race up to set it up for an attack when we get to the steeper part of the climb. And it's in the last 4 or 5 kilometers that we start to get gradients, which very rarely go below 10%.
Expect to see an acceleration, if he can do it, by Sebastian Reidenbach. He's got his name all the way up towards the top of this mountain. As Paul said, he's a local boy. There's only 8 Swiss riders in the Tour de France at this moment.
Well, Nibali is really doing an amazing job like this. Vincenzo Nibali, Phil, well, he keeps just looking down there just to keep an eye on the kind of gearing he's got in. He's just stamping out this pedal. He really wants to put pressure onto Team Sky. Over on the right-hand side, Wout Poels, Sergei Henao is still in this group with Chris Froome. But I just feel that they're not doing enough yet to rattle the foundations of Froome. 4 kilometers to go to the finish now for Zakharin.
Not long to the top, 4 kilometers, but it is very, very, very steep now. We're not even over half the height this finish stands on. We finished at 6,430 feet, which is just under 2,000 meters. 4 kilometers to go now for Johansson Pantano.
Well, you just have to wonder how he's finding the courage. He hasn't lost that much. He's still hanging on to around about a 20-second deficit. And if he can find a second wind on this climb, if he feels much more comfortable, all of a sudden, Phil, I'm getting information that Nibali's going backwards too.
Well, he did a great piece of pacemaking. He set the thing up now for Aru, but he's going to have to pass it on because he's done all he can do. Another man gone from that group.
And we've talked about if these riders are saving something for the last week of the race. Have riders been careful with their energy in the first 2 weeks of this bike race, saving it for these very difficult 4 days? We could turn the overall standings up every day over the next 4 days of racing in the Alps, and Fabio Aru, who was sitting in second position in this line, looked very, very comfortable.
It's left now to Diego Rosa here to set the pace. Aru is the next man. He's going to have a dig. He can't ride all the way to the summit without trying something. He's got 3 Team Sky riders on his back wheel. Then we've got Froome as they continue their climb up this mountain.
Another rider selected for Italy for the Olympic Games. Diego Rosa sitting on the front, just waiting for the moment to move. I have to think that there's going to be an attack closer up towards the top of this climb from Fabio Aru, just sitting there, 26 years of age, the new star of Italian cycling.
His face tells me he's thinking about it. He's waiting for the moment. He's not under pressure. Cheers for Kreuziger. He's in this group. And the youngster here at the back from South Africa, Louis Meintjes, he's just hanging on there, but he looks very, very comfortable at this moment in time.
Well, I have to look back through my records, Phil. We've had stage victories for Africa. We've had wearers of the polka dot jersey for Africa, and even wearer of the yellow jersey. I'm not sure if we've had an African rider finish in the top 10. Zakharin, though, is now getting onto the steepest part of the climb, 11%. Pantano getting a bit of respite at 5%. Micah's on the 10% part of the climb. But look at the speeds. The speeds are down on average to around about 10 miles an hour, 15 kilometers an hour for these guys. That's an indication just how tough this is. Job done.
That's it now, and Aru says, hey guys, what's happened to all my pacemakers? That's the job done now for Diego Rosa. Now it's up to Aru himself. Well, the South Africa have never finished in the top 10 in the Tour de France, and tonight it could well be that Louis Meintjes on this first day in the Alps is going to be in the top 10.
I just felt so sorry there for Diego Rosa. It was an indication of how hard a teammate digs in for it to himself to try and set something up for his leader. And when the lights go out, they really go out on a climb like this. But you've still got to get to the top. You've still got to get inside of the time limit.
24 seconds is the gap between this rider, Pantano, and the man leading the charge. No Russian cyclist has won a stage of the Tour de France in 2009, 7 years ago, and that was Sergei Ivanov.
And that was a pretty impressive performance into Aix-les-Bains in the rain. This man, though, he won't give up, Phil, at 24 seconds. As long as he goes around these corners, once he gets into the straight, as long as he can see the neutral service vehicle behind Zakharin, he will keep aiming for that, trying to find some more courage, trying to find some more strength.
The 26-year-old, 27 in September, just after the Olympic Games, should he go, is riding solidly. He's won 14 bike races in a career which started only in 2012.
Well, Sergei Henao is on the front now for Team Sky. It was followed by Nieve, followed by Wout Poels, and then the yellow jersey. But all of these men in the slipstream of the yellow jersey are all the men in the top 10 positions in the overall standings.
Well, I can tell you, outside our commentary box, all of the Swiss are glued to a huge big screen seeing these riders climb up this mountain. Many of the people putting the barriers out today were volunteers who came in from all over the world, but based in Geneva, to make sure those barriers were right for this climb. They start actually quite a couple of kilometres from the top.
Another interesting point was they didn't travel up here this morning. Many of them slept up here overnight to make sure that the job was done. Look at the face, though, here, Phil, on Jarlins and Pantano.
Now, is this a move here? Because
Valverde.
this is Valverde who's stretching the legs. He's come to the front. There'll be no move from Team Sky. It's up to the others to get the seconds back. They'll just let the pace slow down. They're not going to waste their energy today.
Well, actually, I just noticed now, coming up alongside there, you can see a little bit of a gap starting to appear by Chris Froome. All of a sudden, his teammates might be ungluing him.
Watch Pantana here. Quintana, sorry, watch him. He must have seen that gap open. Why doesn't he attack? He can't.
Maybe he can't, and maybe he's waiting. It's a playing game at the moment, but towards the top of this climb, there will be some serious truths. I take my hat off, though, to the man over on the left-hand side there. He's one of the oldest men in the breakaway, Alejandro Valverde. Phil goes again.
Well, that's worth a try, because remember, the last week of the Tour de France last year was not kind to Chris Froome. He lost half his lead in the last 2 days in the mountains. And
oh, Phil, look, all of a sudden, Froome again losing a little bit as they see it, and now dripping by.
Eina's there giving up the pacemaking. This is all on the effort from Alejandro Valverde here. Wout Poels is up behind him.
Roman Kreuziger cracks. That's Henao in number 2 on his back. And I just wonder if Chris Froome went and looked at the videos last night about the last time he came up here in the Criterium de Dauphiné back in 2014. He was dropped and left behind by Alberto Contador on that occasion, and he lost his overall lead in the race.
And he lost to Contador by just 20 seconds. And the way this Tour is going, those seconds will count. He's going to hang on, but if Quintana has got anything in those legs, he's got to go. He's got to gain, even if it's only 20 seconds. Well, he's right on the wheel of Froome.
Yeah, Wout Poels and Nieve are sharing turns at the front. Froome just keeps looking down that gangly, ungainly style of his, and you just can't read how his body's going to react. Well, this man is reacting to the crowds now at 2 kilometres to go, and having driven this part of the course, Phil, we know that the barriers will start in about 400 metres time.
Just around that corner, he's inside 2 kilometres from the finish. Concentrating, hurting, he knows he's under 2, the feeling must be great. He's at about 29 seconds behind the chasing Colombian rider, inspired by being the fact it's National Day in his own country. And there's plenty of cheers here as well for Pantano. And there's a move also from that little select group. Dan Martin's making a move as well, and they're not going to counter the move. They're more concerned about the yellow jersey.
Well, I'll tell you what, Phil, Sky at the moment are nursing Chris Froome. Richie Porte is sitting there in 4th position there, right on the wheel of Nairo Quintana. Quintana comes up alongside Froome just to have a look into his eyes, maybe, just to see how he can, if he can read.
Well, I must confess that I really think now that Richie Porte might make a stab. Number 91 down there, he's watching riders go.
They don't need to panic on the attack of Dan Martin. Dan Martin is 9th overall, but he's lost himself more than 5 minutes. So, again, I would think that Chris Froome will be waiting to see if he's going to get any moves coming from the riders closer to him. Now, watch out.
Aru. He looked to me as though he was getting a bit twitchy there on the right-hand side.
But even Aru is quite a long way back. Aru is actually behind Dan Martin at the start of the day in 10th place overall. But you will see a move come from Chris Froome if there's an attack coming from Bauke Mollema.
Well, here comes the Irishman now, looking over his shoulder there. He's got a gap, but he's still a long way from the finish. He's a lot more than 1.5 kilometres, of course.
Froome, I just keep wondering, Phil, he just seems to be having a hard time holding on to Alejandro Valverde's in difficulty there, as well as Tony Galopin, who was in the breakaway early on today in the red jersey. He's going backwards.
Well, it's going to become one-on-one now because Valverde's gone, isolating Quintana. Quintana can't do anything about Froome. Froome seems to be getting tired, but there's nobody can hit him. And Bauke Mollema, he's looking to profit by anybody else's mistakes. He's in the group, but he's done nothing. He's the white jersey in front of the white jersey.
Well, they've slowly clawed their way back now to the wheel of Dan Martin, but Martin not showing any fear of the reputation of these men. This is the best we've ever seen Dan Martin in the Tour de France, but currently he's going nowhere.
Sebastian Reidenbach slipping away off the back as well, and his name's on the wall just around the corner. 4 kilometres to go. This is for the chase, remember. The other boys will be looking for 1 kilometre to go. The other boy will be looking for 1 to go. Marty's made his move. He's been put back in his place. Quintana gives nothing away and frankly does nothing right now.
I'm just a little
he's
surprised.
on his limit.
The big question mark to me, though, is Chris Froome. From his style, it's a very strange style. It's difficult to read from his body language just how he's going. We're looking at Louis Meintjes on the back end. He and the rider who's just in front of him in the best young rider competition, Adam Yates, they're just hanging in there. But those are 2 young riders for the future, as too is number 41, Romain Bardet.
Yes, 23 and 24 years old, those 2 young riders getting practice in the Tour de France. One day, either one of them might be in the position to win this amazing race. 1 kilometre to go. It goes uphill right to the line, a bit like Alpe d'Huez in that respect. And it's Zakharine who's gone through, looking for the first Russian victory in 6 years in the Tour de France. There's the barriers. It was hard enough. They got the barriers up okay, but the crowd couldn't get up. Oh, the roads are all closed up here.
Well, he's got a very good buffer over Pantana, who is still hovering at 35 seconds. I'm pretty sure Pantana will hang on to 2nd position. Rafał Majka, he's going to get big points on a day like today, Phil, because he's currently sitting in 3rd place on the road at about 1 minute and 20 seconds.
It's slipping away, I'm afraid, for this has been a terrific ride by Jorensen Pantano. He's going to go under that banner around 36 seconds off the pace of the leader, but all he wants is to hang on for 2nd place. He'll get a leg up in the King of the Mountains, but he won't get near Rafał Majka. If Majka is still 3rd on the road, he's still got a lot of points to pick up.
He certainly has double points on today. Well, it's now 40 seconds the advantage of the Russian over Pantano, so I think, Phil, we can pretty much celebrate the victory of a Russian rider today, but he's still got to get himself up this very difficult part of the race. So this is the steepest part of the course with gradients of 12%.
Still incredible pace-making by Nieve here on the front. He's doing all he has to do. Every time he accelerates, he does seem to put Chris Froome in a little bit of trouble. Chris bows his head, picks up the cadence, and gets onto the back wheel there of Wout Poels.
That's Serge Pauwels, who was
come back and dropped
in the breakaway earlier on, and now also slipping away, number 26, who was also earlier on in the breakaway, Lutsenko. Well, look there as if Zakharine almost dropped it there, just trying to find that last little pressure. This is almost interminable, this last 500 metres.
There's no sign for a smile, and I don't blame him, because he's going to have to drive right up to the line to win this stage. It's uphill all of the way. He's going to try and zip up his jersey, but he nearly fell off.
Well, that's what he was trying to do before, but there's no respite at all here to be able to do that, Phil.
All of these people watching know just how hard this climb really is. 375 metres to the line. The crowd are going to bring him home as the first Russian to win since 2009. And more than that, he wants to win as he wants to go to the Olympics, but he's got to wait on politics to decide whether he does or not. Katusha have come straight to the front to shout him home, his teammates. A word of congratulations from the management. They've worked hard, Katusha, Paul, to get a stage win all tour. They've lost twice in photo finishes with Alexander Kristoff. This is the moment. Now he can zip the jersey up, but for heaven's sake, don't fall off.
They're not an easy task there to do at the top of a mountain like this, but he's done it.
He might even have another go here, because he goes uphill right up to the actual camera on the finishing line. Been a superb ride. Remember, he came across the leaders, he flew across to them, didn't wait long before he attacked them. Then he went with Pantano, he attacked him, and the result is he's won the 17th day of this year's Tour de France. And looking by the woes who are following, no one's gained time on the maillot jaune. Sergei Ivanov could take a break now. He was the last Russian in 2009. Now it's Ilnur Zakharine, and they've caught him because it still goes uphill.
And on Colombian Independence Day, going to take second place to add to his victory into Culosa just the other day. It's going to be Jarlinson Pantana. What a brilliant ride by this man. I tell you what, Switzerland seems to smile on him because...
Look at the average speed, 25 miles an hour with those two climbs. That's unreal.
It's unbelievable. As we see Pantano, he's still not got quite up to the finishing line, but I was just about to say it was in the Tour of Switzerland we first saw how well this young man was riding when he won a stage there and finished in second place in the overall standings.
Oh, the cars have been sent away, what they call the deviation, so now you're on your own to take the glory of the day. Jarlinson Pantano, second for Colombia, and for his professional team, IM Cycling, and they grab him before he falls. Now, I wonder if we haven't seen Micah on the climb at all. We haven't got enough cameras, but he should be next man up.
Yes, Mikel Nieve, well, the pole's in second position over on the left-hand side, and there is Rafał Majka.
Micah coming home, big points for third place because the double today, and with him is Jurasek, who was in the original break with him for the Lamprey team. So they've had a great result today because they've still got Menkes to come up. Meanwhile, further down the mountain, the boys in black guide the man in yellow at 2 kilometers to go.
Well, that was Tanel Kangat on the left-hand side, a former member of the early breakaway. He's been caught and passed, but his team have done a phenomenal job to toughen up. But you see, when their writing is on the wall, when you come down to crunch point, Team Sky always come back and rally around their leader, Chris Froome, and still sitting there, Phil. Well, we have to ask the question, has Nairo Quintana got the firepower in his legs today to really climb up and go better than he finished a couple of years ago in second place overall?
The same has to be asked of all of the riders locked in just behind them because they didn't make a move. Bauke Mollema, second overall, couldn't move. Neither could Adam Yates. Quintana couldn't move. We've dropped Valverde, Romain Bardet, Richie Porte, Thomas Voeckler. Even when he's not challenging for a yellow jersey, he's coming home. Now, Porte, I hear, is starting to move clear of the field, and that is the big ride here, because any second will do for Richie Porte. He needs to continue. He may not know the demise of his teammate, the American TJ Van Garderen, who I think is going to lose big time tonight. Another man dropped is Joaquin Rodriguez. A Tasmanian now trying to gain a few seconds, always believing a second or third place in Paris is very real.
Well, Richie Porte knows that this is important days for him as well to try and climb onto the podium and make good the 1 minute and 40 seconds he lost on the second day of this Tour de France, not on his own fault because of a flat tyre at the wrong possible time. That little acceleration came from Nairo Quintana, but he couldn't move. Now all you can see is Chris Froome keeping a little bit of an eye on everything else, and Fabio Aru makes the next acceleration, looking for a few seconds here or there.
He's looking for a few seconds because Daniel Martin's just been dropped from that group, and Aru could climb over him in the overall classification. He only needs 14 seconds.
They're also saying that the man in second place overall, Bauke Mollema, is in difficulty. Froome has just gone over the top though now.
Now here's how you collect seconds, but Quintana looks, at least he's going to hold on to him. This isn't the Chris Froome of the last few days of the Tour de France. He tried, it didn't happen. He'll be worried about the progress of Richie Porte, but he'll try to limit it to just a few seconds.
Well, you know what? Richie Porte knows Chris Froome extremely well, but again, Froome is having to rely on his friend and on his teammate. Wout Poels has come back there once again. Well, Richie Porte really does have the legs and does have the condition to handle a 3-week bike race like this, but all of a sudden Wout Poels is dragging back Chris Froome, and in fact now there's a little bit of dateline between Froome and Quintana. Froome has seen this and said, right, I'm off. Any time I can grab anywhere on any of my adversaries, I'll do it.
He just closes his eyes, grits his teeth and goes. And Wout Poels looks over to see the face of Quintana, saying, well, there's your yellow jersey, Nairo, it's up to you. And he's come right up to Richie Porte here. Porte is gaining a little bit of time. You could see him up to 6th overall tonight. Won't be closing down any time at all on Richie Froome, on Chris Froome rather. 1 kilometre to go for those two.
Bardet is a little bit in difficulty too, number 41. Adam Yates and Louis Meintjes in this group, but they're just coming up to the back wheel there of Nairo Quintana, Fabio Aru over on the right-hand side. These were the guys we expected to see the challenges come to Chris Froome from this afternoon, but they now are the riders on the back foot.
Well, Bardet needs to lose about 24 seconds to the man in red here to lose his place overall in the Tour for now. Froome, again, attacking no one, just following the wheels and keeping the tempo. It's hurting, though. This isn't the smoothie Froome we saw in the Pyrenees.
500 metres to go, but let's not forget, Phil, tomorrow there's also a very important uphill time trial. As Quintana sees this, he realises he's in difficulty. He's losing time. In fact, that sign was 800 metres to go. There's still a long way, around about 2 minutes to get to the finish line. Adam Yates is riding well in the white jersey, best young rider in this bike race there, number 209.
Adam Yates needs 59 seconds over Bauke Mollema, who has been dropped from this group, to reclaim his second place overall in this race for Orica Bike Exchange. We've gone up again to Richie Porte here. He's kicked again. You wouldn't think these two guys at the dinner table are the best of friends. Chris stays in his house in Tasmania, but today it's different. This is the Tour de France.
Well, Froome has moved up onto the wheel of Port, but look at the gap, look at the daylight now between them and everyone else. Nairo Quintana, Phil, tried once again to come across that gap, but he couldn't distance the other compatriot, the other adversaries in the group with him.
Port is racing here to climb one place certainly, and maybe two. I think it's a little impossible for him to climb three, but he could be in the top six tonight.
Just look how much pain Fabio Aru is going through, number 21 there, just to stay on the line there. And Adam Yates accelerates. That's an amazing thing to see, because these riders are putting Nairo Quintana into difficulty.
He is racing to claim second overall.
Bardet has gone straight over the top of that, the young rider from AG2R, but Adam Yates is still on his wheel. Louis Meintjes. These youngsters are putting Nairo Quintana, who's talked about the last week of the Tour for 3 months, into serious problems.
Richie Porte goes up towards the summit here, and he might well be climbing up one or two places. Bardet might be saving the day with that late attack. It'll all come out in the wash. As Porte sees the finishing line, he looks over at Chris Froome. Don't think Chris is worried about beating Richie Porte as long as he goes across the line in the same time, which he will. And they've put distance again into Nairo Quintana. Personally, I find this a very, very sad sight, because he's such a popular bike rider.
Well, we talked so much about this last week of the Tour de France, these 4 big days in the Alps, but Richie Porte is the man who's going to use those days, Phil, to try and get what he's aiming for. He's looking for a podium position.
I think the white jersey of Yates is just at the top of our picture as they come up to the line and they grab hold of those two riders. A good attack up the line by Porte. Here's Yates, remains the best young rider. Lose a little bit to the leaders, but he might well find himself consolidating. He might even go over Bauke Mollema.
Yeah, Fabio Aru's the next rider in, Louis Meintjes, but the time, Phil, is what we're interested in. What is the time deficit of Nairo Quintana as he comes up to the line? He's going to lose himself, I guess, another 27 seconds, I made it there, on Chris Froome.
Well, that will open the gap up for Yates as Mollema comes up on the back wheel here.
And he's lost 38 seconds on the yellow jersey, as well as Dan Martin starts to come in.
Well, he'll just about hold on to second place over Adam Yates with that.
Now coming up there is Sergio Henao. He's lost a bit of time. Let's not forget, tomorrow is an uphill individual time trial. That's Joaquim Rodriguez about to come up towards the line in the red jersey. Well, at least he can celebrate this evening, because it's his teammate, by the way, who's got the victory on the stage. Oh, this is a difficult climb the riders have had to come up this afternoon, and it's the first day of 4 in these alpine passes as we look down on the beckoning waters there. This man tried to do everything for his teammate Nairo Quintana, Alejandro Valverde. He's lost a little bit of time a bit further up. That's Roman Kreuziger. He started the day well placed in the overall standings, in 11th place overall. Valverde, I wonder if he's laying the foundations here for an Olympic gold medal, because the Olympic Games road race is a very difficult circuit, and this man, not only is he good at long stage races like this, but he is also a very, very good one-day specialist, and that's what he's thinking about. That's what his mind is set upon here.
Great stage for the Russian Ilnur Zakarin, and Richie Porte continues his climb up the general classification. Don't go away. We'll check out all of stage 17 when we come back.
It is. We'll get to that in a moment. First, the stage result. Ilnur Zakarin had 55 seconds on the line over Jarlinson Pantano, and it would have been over a minute if he hadn't had to faff about zipping his jersey up. Rafał Majka was third, picking up another 16 mountain points. The remains of the break filled the next 6 places, and Richie Porte was the first of the favourites, 7 minutes 59 behind the winner. With him was Chris Froome. Adam Yates was 8 seconds behind them, just ahead of Romain Bardet. Fabio Aru and Louis Meintjes came in at 8.18. Nairo Quintana at 8.27, conceding 28 seconds to Froome, and Porte 20 to Yates. Bauke Mollema lost 32 seconds of his 58-second lead over Yates. He came in just ahead of Dan Martin. TJ Van Garderen was counting his losses in a larger denomination. He came in with the group 26 minutes behind the winner. And with Joaquin Rodriguez fading and Alexander Kristoff placing no better than second in the sprints, Ilnur Zakarin's ride has salvaged Katusha's tour. The more interesting race, though, when it eventually started, was going on behind him. Let's hear from some of the men in it.
Richie, it needed a lot of confidence and it needed great legs to attack Chris Froome finally.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a good day. I mean, I really want to be on the podium, so, you know, they're the moves that you have to pull, and I felt strong today, and I'm happy with how it all went.
Is this the best you've ever felt in a Tour de France?
I mean, it's different for me, you know. I'm in BMC now and riding for myself, so it's a bit different to the role I've had before, but I'm enjoying it, you know, taking it day by day. The team's, you know, put some confidence into me, and I'm happy with, you know, how today went, but I mean, I know there's 3 more hard days till Paris, and you know, just take it day by day.
Bauke, you've lost some time today, but it was far from a disaster. You're relieved that you limited your losses?
Yeah, because I didn't have such a good legs today. I already felt it, yeah, the second last climb a bit, and yeah, on the last climb when the attack started, yeah, I couldn't follow. I didn't have the legs I had last week, so that's a pity. But yeah, the last 2K, I just kept fighting until the finish line. Yeah, not to lose too much time.
¿Hay algo que puedes hacer en estos días para volver a encontrar tu explosividad?
Bueno, haremos una valoración. Realmente no fue un día bueno para mí. Esperaba hacerlo mejor. El cuerpo estaba bien durante todo el día y los ataques finales me ha faltado.
Dan Martin, we saw you attacking the finale and then you lost a bit of time at the end. Was it a case of overestimating how good your legs were?
Not really, I just thought I might as well try. Sky backed up a little bit and everybody's just happy to sit on the wheel. Somebody's got to test them, haven't they, you know? So, and also I thought, I'm 5 minutes behind Chris. Maybe they might let me go, you know, but obviously not.
Adam, well, you thought that one might suit you, and it seemed to. You had a storming ride there today. What are your reflections?
Yeah, it was a little bit hot, and I don't enjoy the heat too much, but no, I had the guys give me balls all day. There wasn't, you know, a 10k when I wasn't drinking something or pouring a bottle of water over my head. So I stayed cool as possible, and then on the final climb, I tried to follow the guy, Richie and Froome, but yeah, when they go pretty quick, so. I was coming back strong at the end, but kind of ran out of road a little bit, and yeah, but yeah, today was a success. Them two are in my opinion, the strongest guys in the race at the moment, so to come third out of the GC group, I'd say it's pretty good. So yeah, on to the time trial tomorrow.
Here are the time gaps everyone takes into the time trial. Chris Froome now has 2 minutes 27 over the man in second place, while the man in second place is under threat from the man in third. Bauke Mollema has 26 seconds on Adam Yates now, who's pulled closer to him and further away from Nairo Quintana. He's 3 minutes 27 from Froome and 34 from a podium place. Romain Bardet and Richie Porte both leapfrog Alejandro Valverde, while Fabio Aru pulls ahead of Dan Martin and Louis Meintjes re-enters the top 10 as TJ Van Garderen disappears off the radar altogether. You half expected Chris Froome to appear on the podium behind 8 teammates to receive the yellow jersey. Their efforts minimised his yet again today, while Peter Sagan stole some of his thunder, or at least caught the eye of the TV director, who cut away mid-presentation for his wheelie across the line. But the green jersey was about the only man to get the better of the yellow jersey today.
Chris, many congratulations. The team is looking supreme and you're looking even better, if that's possible.
Yeah, just really glad that turned out the way it did today. It's always a bit of hit and miss how you're going to come out of a rest day, and it was great to see that myself and the rest of the team pulled out really well from yesterday.
Bauke Mollema was the closest threat in second place. You've put 40 seconds into him, something like half a minute into Nairo. Adam Yates is within 10 seconds of you, and he's looking, he's having a storming tour. You're going to have to keep an eye on him.
He is. I mean, for his age and for this being the first time he's really ridden GC in the tour, he's riding an amazing race, absolutely amazing race. Yeah, long may it continue.